Alright, should be... Yep, I see the file. Yay, we're recording. I'm very tired. Hopefully this will be short. Yeah, we had storms roll through last night, which knocked out power a few brief times and then one long time. Turns out the UPS on my desktop has failed. Fortunately, I could get things on the laptop, so... Yeah. Still, I did not get much sleep last night from the very stress, and then I woke up early, so yeah, it's just... Hopefully this will be quick. Ish. Quick-ish. Some stuff to talk about. Okay. Just trying to decide what order, and that's why I gotta do all this food nonsense. What are they focused on? Well, cooking first, but construction, okay. So GOG has added more things to its preservation program. That's neat. But they also did one other thing. Among the ones added were just some Heroes of Might and Magic series, franchise, items, games. But they've done more than that as well. They also partnered with, I don't remember, S-Photics? Something like that. Or Photoix? A company that works on exotic storage materials, I guess is a way to put it. Yeah, they worked on that. They partnered with one of them, and, well, the result was, they had put Heroes of Might and Magic 3 onto a 5D crystal that, no, come on. Would you... that, in theory, can store data for billions of years even. So that's neat. They do make the point, though, that, in the write-up thing on it, that while, yes, it can, in theory, hold data that long, fundamentally, that cannot be... Would you mind actually hitting the thing? That cannot be the actual, we cannot be complacent with preservation. That it's not... Things are not preserved, they are being preserved. Even with a medium that in theory can last billions of years, it's still, no, you have to actually do things to ensure it remains in a good state. And by the way, the idea of having a medium that can store data for billions of years is not that wild. This works by apparently storing it in the molecular structure of glass, which should be a fairly stable material. But there's also things that have been worked on, like time crystals. So the idea there is you're not just designing the molecular structure, the crystal structure, for in space, so the three spatial dimensions, you're also designing it over time, so you can actually predict how it will transform over many, many years. Yeah, it's borderline science fiction stuff, but still kind of neat. Okay, this will take all food. So... Nope. Nope. Yes. There. Hopefully that will see that stuff actually move to somewhere hopefully more secure. Looks like it. Oh, well, that's still, I think, more secure. Oh, might not be. What the? Okay. Nope. Turn that off. I don't want this food being put on the ground, if I can help it. Yeah. Besides, there's all this. They can take at least some of it. Okay. Wow, that stuff got emptied fast. It's like this having carcasses and such on, that's one thing, but yeah. That's supposed to be temporary. Alright. Stardock announced something that I'm sure they've been looking that some of them they've been looking forward to for a long time. Both because of just what the project is, but also the significance of the project. So back in 2008, the company released Elemental. War of Magic, is that the actual name of it? I don't really remember, but in any case, they released that. Thing is, the original idea for the game, okay, tend to it. It's still the highest priority. Highest and a first priority, so if you're not taking care of it, that's on you. The original idea for it was far too expansive for what was possible at the time. But they still put out Elemental for what they could achieve, and then Elemental Fallen Enchantress, was that it? And then even Sorcerer King, which I actually reviewed so many years ago. Each one having some aspects of the original idea. Well, now, basically, they have determined that the time has come that engines have developed enough, not just being 64-bit, but I'm sure other things as well. In the press release, it specifically talks about, just to make sure to actually cancel these and just move them. Got 3. And then so that's 8 there. Oh, okay. There. My brain just turned off a little bit. But yeah, so they finally figured that the technology has advanced to the point that they can actually now try to make Elemental Reforged that will be as true to their original vision as they can. Oh crap, I don't remember. Did I put it in here? Nope, it's in the press release, and it is in the Friday write-up. But I don't remember what they said was their target for the early access release. I'm not sure if that will be on Steam early access or not, because previously they have put things to Epic and just had to be early access there. No, it most likely is on Steam because they gave a Steam link, as I recall, for wishlisting it. So yeah, I would assume it will use at least Steam early access. Maybe it'll also be on Epic. Maybe it'll be on GOG. I don't think GOG though. I'm not sure if they have any other games there except for older ones. So we'll see. We'll see. Nothing that I have noted to talk about, even if I had been doing much of the research myself, or reading on it instead of just hearing it being talked about, my brain is not really functioning all that well at the moment, because as I said, I'm quite tired. The whole payment processor situation with Steam is unfortunate, to say the least. So for those who might be unfamiliar with it, which I would think shouldn't be many, well, no, I guess it is actually very possible because of various things interfering with it, but making it harder for it to be depends on what all you listen to or what all you read. But basically, the longer version is a group in Australia has been bullying payment process. It's bullying. To get them to deny service if what the service is being used for is anything that is by their moral code objectionable. I do want to stress their moral code because it's not necessarily. I'm like, there are some games on Steam where it's like, yes, these are straight up pornographic, and also even some stuff where it's like, yeah, this is actually really horrible, and not that I'm particularly comfortable with it being there, but it's also one of those things where it's like, it's there because somebody made it, and I'm not about censorship. It needs to be properly labeled, properly identified, but if somebody wants to buy it, I think that there's... I mean, this is just me talking personally. I'm stepping back a little bit. I can find things morally objectionable, such that I shall not partake in them, and I do not want others to partake in them, but I do recognize others do partake in them. It's less I want to prevent their ability to partake in it, more of I would rather try to sway them to cease partaking in it of their own accord. So to me, censorship, like what is going on here, is wrong. That is also morally wrong. Yeah. So I do take issue with this, even if I would agree that, yeah, some of these games are... That Steam has had to delist... I think it was delisting. In any case, that they've at least hidden. No, I think it was delisting, because a lot of the pornographic games on Steam, you cannot view. They are hidden unless you are logged in as an adult, and then you look for it specifically. So it's not... children, in theory, are not supposed to be accessing it, not supposed to be able to access it, but... I mean, it is a... You know, kids certainly know how to get around things. Kids will lie, so... But it still is... The good faith efforts that are possible for Steam to make have been made. Yeah. So, yeah, this is just... It's not good, because it invites censorship in other places. It's also somewhat hypocritical. Because they went after Steam, which, as it already has stuff to make it less accessible to those who would... should not be accessing that stuff. But also, and by the way, for anyone thinking, oh, well, it won't... No, it does actually cause a harm to children. I'm very serious. I actually know 2 people that were abused as children being exposed to that content, and it messed them up for a very long time, okay? So it's like, no, you are wrong if you think it's not harmful. It does have a harm. And also, to be clear, that was an adult exposing it to them. Okay, that was not them seeking it out. That's different. Well, there are differences there. It was an adult doing this to them. So that's... Yeah. But in any case, come back to the thing. It's like, what about... Because, I do write stories. I do have some knowledge of current stories. Largely, I will admit I'm reading older stuff myself. But say I'm aware of the current romantasy genre, which some will fully acknowledge is just smut. Are Visa and MasterCard, the payment processors in this story, are they... Are they going to start forcing Amazon to delist those items? Somehow I doubt it. Because Amazon is big enough, would probably just say, screw you, we'll just start our own payment processing. But Steam... Well, actually, I believe that they could do it, but not rapidly. Amazon could probably just say they'll do it and get anyone to back off. So, yeah, there is, as I said, a double standard going on here. And it's just, in general, censorship is not a solution to these issues. It is what I said. It's if you want somebody to not partake of certain media, you need to get them to choose not to partake in it. It's actually kind of frustrating, the idea that has to be explained. it's... I mean, and don't get me wrong, it is still an adult's responsibility when it concerns children, at least, that you do not... even something that isn't directly going to mess with the child, as I mentioned. How I know some people who have been. But even without that, just even something like... it's like I've got Alien here, I've got RoboCop down there. Both are fairly violent movies. They're both also very good movies. And it's like, yeah, you don't really want to share that with either of those movies with children that are just too young to understand that, to be able to cope with the violence being shown. And that will vary from child to child also, by the way. But at the same time, though, it can get tricky, because there's this... I barely remember this, but... So I'm the youngest of 3. My brother loved dinosaurs, so we watched Jurassic Park at one time at home when I was in elementary school, and apparently I then went to school and told friends about it, and parents complained to my parents about that. And it's... My mother's response, at least, was, what am I supposed to do? Not let him in the room? I mean, it's like, we have an older son who wanted to watch it, and... Crap, what is Jurassic Park even rated? Is that PG or PG-13? I could see a good argument for that being only PG. I'm dead serious. Because while it does include some graphic content, as far as, like, people being injured and such, there's also a certain cartoonish element to it. And it's like, it is big dinosaurs. Like, there is contextual cues within it that some of that wouldn't actually be a problem for a child a younger child to process. Like, that, I can see that not having to be PG-13. I can understand somebody saying it. I can understand it being set to that. And people saying it should be. I can understand that. It's just, I can also see the argument that it can be younger. Alien? No. That's a bit much. RoboCop? Again, that's a bit much. Especially since my version is technically the unrated. Where they actually went through and removing, like, single frames to try to finally get it from NC-17 down to R. And it was just for violence. That it had that rating. So yeah, just trying to tone down the graphic nature of some of it, and it's, you know... I mean, stories like that of, like, yeah, we're removing single frames until finally MPAA said yes. Which, part of the reason that's funny is how some of those stories are, like, legitimately, it was just the censor, let's be real, finally was like, yeah, that's good enough. I mean, it's like, there's barely a difference here. I can believe that there have been times when they just showed them the same exact cut a second time. It's like, yeah, that's fine now. And it's... Some of it is by feel. Something? No, would not. I mean, there's no way RoboCop would not be R. I mean, it's like, no, that's clear. But exactly where you're over the line with the violence, that I can see being debated. But yeah, it is weird, this whole situation. I do not exactly know where it's going to go. Because on the one hand, it's not that I lost track of where I wanted to go, it's just, is that how I actually wanted to start the on the one hand thing? Maybe not. But it's just the whole, these payment processes, all they are really is middlemen. So, and I think I've been hearing people talk about how that there are bills before the Senate and House, at least in the US, to basically say, hey, guess what? You're a payment processor, guess what you get to do? You process payments. You don't make moral judgments. I mean, it's one thing if there's actual illegality involved, but that's not the payment processor deciding that. That it's like this is, or being bullied into certain actions. You know, that's not, that's different. It's like, this is illegal, you shouldn't support it, is one thing versus, well, somebody objects to this, so you shouldn't support it. There are distinctions there. So there's that's one possible solution, but I do also wonder if you will see a movement to come up with new, more neutral payment processors, either by... how do I want to put that? Either by intention or by design, by function. So, like, one thing, I got issues with cryptocurrencies. Right? To be honest, I legitimately do have issues with them. That I don't think that they're that great an idea. Even so-called stable coins, because the idea that my main issue with cryptocurrency is that the backing to it, what actually gives it the value, is just energy that was put in, which means that as the value of power changes, so does the value of the currency. As the complexity, well, the relative complexity of the work changes, so does the value of the currency. Now, as I recall, Bitcoin is basically locked, at least the number of Bitcoins available, but it's yeah. But it is just that inherent volatility that I'm concerned with. And even though I don't remember how all stablecoins work to try to address that, which is supposed to be less volatile, my understanding is that they can still be volatile. But in a situation like this, I do completely acknowledge that they are also... Oh. Hang on. That's true. Yeah, got animals need to be taken care of. I thought that this would be done faster. I must acknowledge that cryptocurrencies can have the advantage of being more akin to cash in that the transactions are not as monitored. It's like you don't necessarily have that ability for somebody to be like, hey, I don't want this person getting that money, so I'm not going to let it happen. Or it shouldn't be, this money should not be spent in that way. So I do wonder if there could be some sort of middle ground thing where it's just, even if it were technically, yes, it's Bitcoin behind it or Ethereum behind it, whatever, but it's like you make a purchase and it's just they are within a single fraction of a second purchasing the Bitcoin for you. It's just like goes to your ownership and then is sent to Steam, so it is a cryptocurrency purchase, but it was done in a way that masks it, so almost like a VPN kind of thing for a transfer. I see something like that, and there are other things with cryptocurrency where it's like just the inherent tracking nature of it as far as expenses. It's like in one of my stories, one of the science fiction stories I've written, I actually have in there that basically, yeah, there's a dude, he's not using cryptocurrency, but he's using the blockchain for managing his money. It's just he knows every single expense coming in and going out of his business because of that. But he's doing that more so to track what's going on than actually facilitate the payments. I could see somebody coming up with some solution there, but yeah, I do not know. I do not know what the ultimate solution for this situation will be. I just wanted to click out to see what the time has been. Alright. Come on. But yeah, I do know what the ultimate result of this effort will be. It has the potential to be very significant, because as I said, even if it's just the bills are passed into law that compels payment processors to facilitate those purchases that might be morally objectionable, but are legal, are not illegal. Which will also be interesting for other reasons, because there have also been payment processors trying to exploit their position to strip people of Second Amendment rights in America. I don't know how many people, but I can believe that the majority of listeners are for these videos, for whoever does watch them, are in America, but some might be outside of America. There have been times when some of the payment processors, MasterCard or Visa, are at minimum tracking purchases of guns and related materials, and will report you. So they're basically building up a national list and will turn that over to the federal government, even though that is actually one thing that is illegal. That might not be something you realize, but that is actually illegal. The federal government is not supposed to have a list of gun owners for the specific purpose of so they cannot harass, harangue, or otherwise abuse the owners, because that is potentially what would happen. It's also part of the reason why, but this got relaxed at one point, why there had been a ban on gun violence being considered a medical issue, because then the CDC could do their stuff with it, and by and large, the CDC is an unchecked organization. Various executive administrations within executive agencies within the government are unchecked. Yeah, it's one of those funny things that because of how the Bill of Rights is written, that's Congress shall make no law doing this or that. That ends up being interpreted as, oh, well, this is an executive branch organization, therefore, no, you don't have, that means that, no, we don't need to protect your, say, right to, a trial, right to due process. Like, there's actually one story that I've heard of. This was also actually concerning guns, because it was a gun store owner who because a lot of his transactions were in cash, what ended up happening, well, there are certain legal provisions that allows the government to be like, hey, you're doing a lot of cash transactions. This might be a crime. You might be like a drug dealer or something like that. So I don't remember which organization was. Decided, okay, we're going to put a freeze on your bank account. And not only that, they then seized it. And the guy's like, I have a legitimate business. And can provide receipts for everything. And he did. And it did lead to a very interesting situation. What do I have turned on? Or was it that everything... I have no idea. I do not know what the difference is. Oh, maybe for fuel? Or it would be nice if stuff carried over. Yes, I turned off dung bricks. Okay. Animal feed, I want minimum of 25. Then lavish meal, pickled vegetable. Yeah. Nope. There. But yeah, he had receipts for everything, so he could prove every dollar. It's just a lot of his transactions happen to be in cash, so that it prompting an investigation, I don't think anyone can fully object to, because like that's not an unreasonable concept. But what ended up happening was, even though they didn't just freeze his account, they actually took the money as well. They seized money from it, and his lawyers were like, get that back. You have no legal claim to it. There was never like an actual warrant issued either for it. It was just they did this. And what ended up happening after that was, and I think he did eventually get it all back, but the government agency was like, yeah, how about we give you half of your money back? It's like, what? You had no legal claim to seizing it. You had no legal claim to even freezing his account. And you're like, hey, why don't you just give us some of the money anyway? Why don't you let us keep some of the money? It's like, no. So, yeah, it's... At least in that case, the argument can be made that the government did overstep itself, did violate his rights. But if it's Visa or MasterCard doing that, and there have been other instances of people being debanking, being debanked, I'm trying to decide what I want to... I guess I can also just leave them there. But if they are debanked, in some cases the government is like, well, it's a private organization, they're allowed to do what they want. Though I do think it is still, it should be considered illegal that it's like, okay, fine, I can no longer do service with them. They need to give me my money back. It's not, I lent it to them. They do not own my money. But I think in some cases, no, the banks are like, no, we're keeping it. Or if nothing else, we'll just, they would be able to just maintain, like, well, you know, we're finding this appeal, we're finding that appeal, you know, doing all this stuff to slow the ability for anything to happen, such that they just run out the clock, essentially, and the people lose all their money. I'm gonna start. Oh, be there. I'm gonna start going through and have this match the levels scene for aptitude. Wait, no. Yeah, so that would be 5. Oh, well, I'm not bothering with that. Okay, no, this should be 3 then. Just go through this way. They really need to have a way to just algorithmically assign these, because it's so annoying. Anyhow, what was the point I was making? I'm very tired. And one thing not really helping, by the way, is also because I mentioned the power outages. Because, you know, storms went through last night. Yeah, I was also expecting more storms during the day today. It might only be rain as opposed to actual storms, which rain is fine. We could use some rain, but we don't need the storms. Oh yeah, that's right. That the whole issue of that a company, well, any organization, whether it's a company or a person, if they have the resources, can just decide, I will bankrupt my opposition by delaying the trial as much as possible, and making this request and that request, so that ultimately, by the time it can get to trial, the person has spent everything on legal fees. It is incredibly wrong that. I have no idea what a good solution would be, though. But I can believe that would be the case. So it's like, well, yeah, the court eventually does rule that, hey, you've got to give them their money, but the money's already been spent on the legal fees. Assuming that you aren't able to successfully argue that, hey, I should, like, legal fees should be paid, but that by whoever it was that's being prosecuted. But even then, you got the issue of, fine, they're going to pay the legal fees, but that only happens at the end of the case, not before. So, yeah. Yeah, I do not know what the solution is for stuff like that, because on the one hand... Oh, it's okay, because I don't care. Um, because it's one of those things where, on the one hand, it's a horrible situation and should be solved. But on the other hand, how do you address it without potentially making the situation worse? And by that I mean, like, in theory, it might seem like, oh, well, why don't you just have some sort of fund that can be accessed such that, somebody in that situation can simply be, it doesn't have to pay out of pocket for the stuff. Almost like how, in criminal cases, you can get a public defender who you are not obligated to pay. In theory, that could work, but then it's also you removing the need for somebody to have that calculus of how important is this to me. Is it more valuable than the money? So that's why it's not really a great solution. Okay, actually, you want to have this stuff at 3. That basically 5 should be the lowest. That's part of what is weird here. As I said, this needs to be algorithmic. Or no, that should be. Because yeah, if you start removing the need for somebody to do that essentially cost-benefit analysis, then you're also removing a reason for them to be cautious with it. And be responsible. I think that lower. That's just a 4. So, for example, because this is kind of an example, look at the work that I'm having to do, that I knew I would have to do when I decided to just wipe everything and have them focus on single tasks. I knew I'd have to then rebuild this, and I knew it would suck. But at the same time, because I had no ability to trust the work would get done otherwise, I had to do it, and that work I valued enough to say, screw it, need to do it. But boy, isn't this fun! Am I not having so much fun doing this? Okay. I think everything that I want to have. I don't care about jailer, I don't care about train. So everything is set more or less where I want it to be. Okay. Oh, yes. Alright, so... No, you... Son of a bitch. Who has sufficiently high... Okay, you do. I want some of the stuff just done. I don't think any of these are 2 special. I can still make sure I keep 1 here. Actually, I'm gonna keep 2. Because I think I actually did make a difference between... Yeah, 1 prioritizes animal feed, the other doesn't. I thought I put 1 there. Okay, that's fine. But that's... Okay, yeah, so it's just those 2. Okay, and what is it? Oh, metal traps, okay. What are you talking about? Oh, these are metal traps. I was taking them there first. Okay. But yeah, so it's... I don't know how that can necessarily be solved, aside from making it more clear in certain circumstances that it... Or, I guess even just... I guess maybe something would be almost like an escrow, a legal escrow, where under certain circumstances, shouldn't be in all circumstances, but under certain circumstances, fine. You decide you're gonna sue somebody. You, like if it's certain number of appeals or certain type of appeal to delay, it's like, okay, at this point, you are putting so much into an escrow that now you and your opponent draw from, such that you cannot, so that it cannot be a situation of you are just bankrupting them by being having more money. I guess maybe something akin to that. I don't know why I'm really bothering with that. And I think I do also want to put these underneath. Yeah, because it wants to be under. It wants the stuff to be underneath the roof, but I don't. Well, okay. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Huh. That door... Oh no. Well, yeah, it would open up into a pillar there. Damn it. So with that one... Did not realize that. Alright, well... Only solution, move the doors over like that. Yeah, I guess something like that, because that way you... Both parties can still have the resources to continue until it is settled, one way or the other, either through a settlement or through legal proceedings. Through the court, but... Yeah. It's such a weird situation. And a very unfortunate one. Okay, so... We'll make... What? Oh, man. So... There's meal, animal feed. Okay, so it's just like that. Oh, come on. You used to be able to just type it in. I don't know why it seems you can't anymore. Also don't know why you can't copy it or just select multiple to apply, but anyway. Oh, I guess I can talk about that as I continue to deal with this stuff. And not just stopping. Did see Superman last weekend. Was very unimpressed. Which is unfortunate. One good thing is that it did make me decide, you know, I'm going to order that nice set of the Christopher Reeves Superman movies. Which, by the way, are actually... It looks like the set is disappearing, but not forever. So... this nice set includes the a Blu-ray version and 4K Blu-ray version of each. It includes the Donner cut of Superman 2, which some do say is the superior version. I haven't seen it yet, I can't comment. But for those wondering, it's the studio decided that they didn't like what Donner, who directed the first one and originally was making the second film, they didn't like what he was doing, and so decided they would replace him with a different director who had a different vision. And yeah, but it was still possible later for Donner to, or somebody else, I'm not sure. I think he's still alive. But it was then reconstituted what he wanted for the film. I might actually change this a little bit and just add another floor onto it, so I have butchering here and then up here cooking. Well, actually, I could put butchering up, or I could put it down. I could have it in here. Good. Set to low. Yeah, so it's got that. Yeah, so that is disappearing. But they are putting out a new Steelbook version that looks like it will have all the same media. You know what? No, I don't want that there. I want that on the outside. So yeah, it looks like it will have the same media, I'm assuming. So it'll be the same discs, just in different packaging. Gonna be more expensive. But what was annoying for me is it'll be in September that releases. And it's like, yeah, I don't feel like waiting. And I also don't need to spend the money on the Steelbooks anyway. If that's all that was the only thing available, that would have been fine. I wouldn't have objected to the Steelbooks. It's just, for my needs, that's not what I'm looking for. Or rather, my desires. But I also ordered... I already have Batman the Animated Series, the complete thing, so it's Batman the Animated Series and the new Batman Adventures, or whatever that was. And Batman Beyond, and Superman the Animated Series. Well, I also ordered the Justice League as well, and Justice League Unlimited, so the complete follow-up series, more or less, to Superman. So that'll be fun to watch through. I do remember watching that as a kid, but I don't remember it as clearly. But yeah, I mean, so it's like, yay, positive thing from watching the Superman 2025. It makes me want to get the classics. But it is also, reminding me of some of the episodes of the animated series that were legitimately like, yeah, this is good. And legitimately it is. The Superman animated series is quite good. I would not argue with somebody that Batman the Animated Series is better. I'm not sure I would necessarily make that argument one way or the other, but it is I cannot disagree. But yeah, so I am looking forward to that stuff arriving. Also, finally ordered the nice set of Star Trek, the Star Trek movies, the original cast movies, which I think I've talked about that before. I don't really remember. In that, I already have a set of them, but it's the older set, which I'm happy with. But apparently had gone through denoising. Like, it's early enough in Blu-ray's days that they were denoising things, removing the film grain, and even applying a sharpening filter. Still, they look fine to me. But seeing some screenshots of some of the Star Trek, the new masters of Star Trek that include 4K, I have been disappointed. Because some of it, the color grading that they did, in part for HDR, looks like crap. Where it's like, no, there are supposed to be shadows on the bridge. Why did you raise the levels up so high that there are no more shadows? But also, why is it that the red uniforms are now looking orange? So hopefully that was just the screenshots were bad, but honestly, if it ends up being that I just still watch the versions off of my current discs, that's fine. But I don't have the director's cut of Star Trek the Motion Picture, I don't have the director's cut of Wrath of Khan, and I don't have the director's cut of Star Trek 6. Star Trek 6, the director's cut, is superior, so I'm very glad that I will finally be able to get a high-definition version of that in my collection. And as far as Wrath of Khan and the motion picture, I'm not actually sure if I've ever seen the director's cut of Wrath of Khan. I know what differences are between the director's cut and theatrical cut of Star Trek 6. I know what those differences are. I don't know what they would be for Wrath of Khan. Maybe I have seen, maybe I haven't. And I've also not seen the new version, the new remastered version and new cut of the motion picture, which supposedly is story-wise better. I am aware that the remastering of it, that's what's on those discs, that remaster is a superior version. So, yeah, that's neat. But also that was like yeah, they kind of said this is a Superman set, though that is neither of those sets should be disappearing, in my opinion. Those are both classic enough movies that you should be able to continue producing them, maybe in smaller numbers, but continue to produce them. They will keep selling. But both through Amazon, we're shipping through Amazon, but we're third-party sellers. So if you have an interest in those Star Trek films, you might want to place an order soon. If you have an interest in Superman, either see about ordering it soon, or wait until September when or pre-order the Steelbook set. Steelbooks look, visually what I was seeing in the image looked fine. Assuming it's the same media inside, and it's technically 5 movies because it's 2 cuts of Superman 2. I think I was seeing it was like $120, $125. That's not necessarily a bad price for what it's offering. So I can't really object to the price. But the currently available set that is what I ordered, I paid $90 for it, and yeah, that's where it has been hanging out for a while. I wish it were a little cheaper, but it's like I understand. It's not a bad price. So, but that is not as fancy of cases. So anyway, all right, that went longer than I thought. So hopefully, we won't lose power. It's looking okay. While I try uploading this. Yeah, it looks like it should be fine. All right, so yeah. See you next time.